wow, I never would have been able to do this without a pandemic. Yeah. So, as I've said before, that I've been able to do what I have done recently, and it's taken me 3 years in a pandemic to do it.
Hey everybody, it's John Lamberton here alongside my good friend and business partner, Mr. Jason Brockman. We are here for another episode of the Ambitious Lifestyle Business Podcast, where as always, it is our job to help you get more customers and make more money without just working harder. So without further ado, let's dive straight into this month's episode. Over the last decade and a half, he's led many high-profile events across the world, including leading equestrian events and music festivals, as well as major events in the Emirates, Russia, Spain, the Canary Islands, and France. He is the founder of Event Site Design, an industry-leading site design, production, and operations specialist who creates highly detailed CAD plans and site markouts for events. Welcome to the show, Rupert.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me. Very exciting.
Nice to see you.
So, first place I have to start. Well, obviously, we will have opened this show with our traditional opening credits and our theme music, but should we be starting this show with the circus march?
Maybe.
I mean, I think it's not the first time we should have had.
I think most of our podcasts start that way.
So, come on, then. What was your job in the circus? Did you have the big trousers?
Well, this was way back. The circus finished when I was about 6-7 years old. So my only job was to run around like a circus child. We did at one point, we're carrying in the crash mats for the flying trapeze, and we were involved in a few clown acts. But mostly, we were traveling around the circus. It's my dad and my mum owned and operated the circus. And at the time, it was one of the largest, if not the largest, non-animal circus in Europe, I think. And as I say, went till I was about 7 years old. It went off to America and it kind of never came back.
Oh, no. What was that like then, growing up as a child in a circus?
I think at the time, it was, I look back now and I just think it's fascinating, and I'm really grateful for having a colourful upbringing, as I call it. And that's obviously how I got into this industry, because I've already had so many connections with it. Really grateful for that upbringing. It was very different. We lived in caravans, we lived in trucks, we were rarely in the same place for very long. And I missed a lot of school because of it.
Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say anything about that showing.
I was waiting for you to kind of say something.
So what happened then? How did it end up going to America?
Through investors picked it up and thought it was at the time we had the Alice in Wonderland performance. So that was the sort of the model and the what do you call it? The theme of the circus was the Alice in Wonderland, and and it went off. But it kind of at the time, so the circus was called something which at the time the name and the word wasn't very well known, but over in America it was very well known. It's a very popular American word. We didn't know it until more recently, and that word was burlesque. Yes. It had nothing to do with burlesque, with
nipple tassels
or nipple tassels or anything like that. At the time, it was just a great, really interesting word, and circus burlesque just sounded really cool to us people in the UK. But when it went to America, people got a bit confused, arrived, and were incredibly disappointed.
Where are the nipple tassels? Yeah,
indeed.
So was that your first experience of an acquisition?
I guess it was, yeah. I mean, obviously I was 6 years old then, so it was, I don't remember an awful lot of it. My dad obviously dealt with it very much. And then I never actually went to America, sadly. They went off without me, and it didn't last very long. And then we got on with sort of a more normal lifestyle, living in the city.
What was that like then? So you say you were 7 at the time?
Yeah, I think 6.
What was that like then? Yeah. Having grown up and only ever knowing being part of the circus family to suddenly as you said, welcome to normality. This is a city, off to school.
Yeah, we moved into the city while the circus was still going. And I mean, as you can imagine, if you're in the circus going to a city school, you get a lot of slack for that. So and it was a point when I changed from the primary school to secondary school, and when I moved across to secondary school, I just didn't tell anyone about my history because it was just much easier, and it wasn't. And I was so obviously quite embarrassed, I suppose, and because it was very difficult. It was normal. You weren't normal. You were abnormal. So you were going to get teased. So I just didn't say anything and had a fairly normal secondary school life. And it wasn't until I got into my adulthood where I started talking about it more, and it actually became suddenly a really interesting topic to talk about. And everyone wanted to hear about it, know about it. Can I juggle? Can I ride the unicycle? Yes to both of those things, by the way.
I was just about to ask. Yes. Any other circus skills?
I could probably do the plates a little bit and a little bit of the slack rope, but that was actually later on.
Okay. John could do some lessons in plate spinning.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the plate spinning, am I?
No.
Just one plate.
Go on. Just one plate. Oh, there you go. I might be able to do one plate.
At a time, there's 10 others going on.
It's interesting, isn't it, Rupert? Because you say, when you're a kid, the golden rule is don't stand out, don't be different.
Yeah.
And when you're adult, the golden rule is stand out, be different. It's the complete opposite, isn't it?
Completely, yeah. And now more than ever, during this situation, where we're going through a really difficult and challenging time and everyone is making a very similar noise. And so now more than ever, you have to stand out, you have to make a different noise. And so I suppose in some ways that sort of childhood and remembering that was very different. And whilst that was a negative experience back then, now it's very much a positive one. And anything I can say to be different and stand out, I will.
So, obviously, this podcast is called the Ambitious Lifestyle Business Podcast. From your introduction there, we mentioned the Emirates, music festivals, Spain, Canary Islands. Traveling all over the world, very glamorous events. We obviously spoken. We know a lot of the events that you've been a part of. How have you developed an ambitious lifestyle business, and what does that ambitious lifestyle business look like for you?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, an ambitious lifestyle business is a business that supports my ambitious future plans for my future lifestyle. So it isn't about a business which is supporting the lifestyle that I have right now. It's making my plan of what I want it to look like in 1 year, 3 year, 5 years time, and then creating a plan to turn the business that I have now or businesses into something which is going to support what I want it to look like then.
So when you say what you want it to look like, you're talking about what you want your lifestyle to look like, and then you think about the business. You're not saying, right, I want the business to be doing £700,000 a year by 2023, 1.3 million by this point. You're thinking, actually, what lifestyle do I want? And then we need to reverse engineer that and say, all right, to deliver that lifestyle, what numbers do I need the business to hit?
Absolutely. You need to have a goal which fills you with a desire. So, and you can't do that. I mean, maybe some people are driven by money, and of course we all are in some ways. But ultimately, unless you know what you're going to spend £700,000 on when you get it, it's quite difficult to visualize it. And so for me, and certainly some of the various things I've learned through, reading your books, other books, being a part of the 1% Club, I've learned about vision boards, visualizing what that looks like. And I've learned how to go to not focus on what the business needs to look like first, but to focus on what I actually want. How do I want my life to look like? An analogy which I've come across, which I think is Pat Flynn's analogy from his book Will It Fly, which is a great book for if you're just starting something up. starting a new business up or testing an idea. And he talks about being in an airport, meeting a friend, and it's 5 years in the future. And you meet that friend and they say, oh my God, I haven't seen you for 5 years. How have you been? And your answer is, oh my God, incredible. I feel amazing because, and it's that because and how you feel and why you feel so amazing that you need to attach, you need to kind of build that around what you want. And then you can, then from there, as you say, then you sort of develop what the plan, what the business needs to look like. So if I need £1 million to have a great lifestyle, then what business do I need in order to support that? And then break it down from 5 years down to 3 years, down to 1 year, down to 90 days.
Down to this week, down to today, down to the one thing I'm going to do next. Exactly. I love the fact you picked up on desire. Are you reading the words off the top of my wall here?
Oh, I didn't see that, but I can see that now. Yeah. Desire. Well, it's something, I mean, we both, I think, read Life in Half a Second several times. And it's one of the books that really, I really associated with. And it's just kind of that connection with desire and your goals, I've realized is just so important, because I've set goals in the past before and haven't hit them and not really, and I've gone, oh, well, whatever. And I've just moved on with my life because I haven't really felt like I needed to or wanted to.
Yeah. I've seen so many people they make, and particularly the big goal, it's the £1 million. Why do you want £1 million? Be nice. Yeah, are you really willing to do the work that's necessary for something that's, that'd be nice. You know, what are you actually going to do with it other than pay a lot of tax and have to, create a lot of work and potentially create some liabilities and take a lot of risk and have a big team that's relying on you for every direction and for them to pay their wages. What do you want that money for? And if you've got a definite purpose for it and a real strong desire for the lifestyle that requires £1 million profit per year, then absolutely you're willing to pay that price. I can't think who that was now, but there was somebody who said, that there's a price for everything. And you just need to know what is the price. We've just said $1 million there, but let's say it's 10 million. For my lifestyle, I require a private jet and £10 million a year. Okay, here's the price that you have to pay for that. You're not going to see your family. You're not going to be able to focus on your health. You are going to have to work 100 hours a week. You're going to have to risk your home. You're going to have to risk your life savings. You're going to have to do this. Are you willing to pay that price? And if the answer is yes, great, crack on. If the answer is no, don't do it. And it comes down to desire and your desire to pay the price, because if you don't really desire something enough, you aren't going to pay the price to do the work, to take the risks.
Absolutely. And I think it's also often it's about what you might lose by not doing it. And so it's about consequences as well, isn't it? And I think that as an example I've done things recently which I've been meaning to do for years. And the only reason I've done it now is because I have to do it. Otherwise I've possibly not got a business or possibly not got the house and so on. So I needed to find a way to make more money, and that suddenly now I'm doing it. Whereas before I was making up excuses on why I wasn't doing it. I was like, oh, well, maybe it's not really a good idea, or actually maybe it's not going to make that much money, or I haven't really got the time to do it. Suddenly, okay, now I've got a little bit more time to do it. But
why have you suddenly got time on your hands? I don't understand. I mean, surely we're recording this. Obviously, I know this is the July episode, but we're recording this in May. This should be the start of busy season for you. I mean, Glastonbury Festival's coming up in like a couple of months. We've got all sorts of. This is event season. Come on, Rupert. This is your busiest time of the year, isn't it?
May 2020, busiest month ever on my calendar. But that's what it looked like. I had summer at the point back in when I was looking at it back in February. I looked at this month and I thought, I actually don't know how I'm going to achieve this month, and I don't yet know what resource is available for me to do this. Can I cope with this sort of demand? I've said yes to it all straight away and worked out how to do it later. Unfortunately, I didn't get the chance to figure it out. But yeah, it's a little bit more time on my hands. But even so, I think even with that, I've got probably longer, a lot more time on my hands for longer, but I've also set myself a little bit more, I suppose, unrealistic deadlines to get things moving along a little bit quicker. That's my.
It's unrealistic in the current system, but actually, the number of hours and things that you need to put in now for what your new goals are for this part is probably the same number of hours, but not trawling around the country and yomping about, putting flags in and various other things as well. So it's a different kind of work that you're doing now, but you're still putting those hours in. And I guess that's back down to your desire to reach your goals and actually being able to kind of get to that stage. So I think of probably all of our 1%ers, you've had the biggest pivot that you've kind of needed to do because of COVID. As you said, you've kind of all of the bookings and all of your things that you had lined up for this year have literally all cancelled on you for this year, haven't they? So you've had to kind of do something different in order to hit your goals.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's it. Is suddenly I find myself with either the option of spending all my time teaching the kids, borrowing a load of money and hoping we make it through, or I look at this as a massive opportunity where I now am at home, and I'm very grateful I have an office at home, and I've now got this time on my hands, and wow, I never would have been able to do this without a pandemic. Yeah. So, as I've said before, that I've been able to do what I have done recently, and it's taken me 3 years in a pandemic to do it.
For the listeners that are listening to this and thinking, well, that sounds great, but I couldn't do that. My business is different. This is an opportunity. And I think you used the line just now, Rupert, about, thanks to a global pandemic, I've been able to do this. And we've had the same in our business, or in a couple of our businesses, whereby we've had stuff on our could-do list for 18 months, maybe even a couple of years, that we've wanted to do. And it's on the plan, it's on the roadmap for later this year. It's on, we're a bit quieter towards the end of 2020. We'll get round to revamping the website then. We'll get round to writing those articles then. We'll get down to revamping the customer journey then. And then COVID came along and said, well, that was a lovely plan, but I tell you what, how about I remove Euro 2020 from the equation? How about I remove Royal Ascot from the equation? Oh, you run a sports betting business? Well, there you go. I've taken a couple of big events off your hands. Tell you what, how about I take all sport away for months on end? Yeah, as business owners, we've been sat here for, this is my 21st year in business now. And for 20 of those years, I've sat there going, I wish I had more time. I wish I had some spare time to do everything that I want to do. And I still haven't got enough time to do everything that I want to do. But what I have got is time to build assets and to create the stuff that's actually going to serve me and serve my business and fuel the lifestyle that I want. 5 years from now, when I meet that stranger in the airport and they say, how are things going? I say, absolutely great. Because 5 years ago, when the rest of the world were twiddling their thumbs and refreshing the news feeds and saying, oh, what brilliant time it is to sit at home and do nothing, I'm watching the assets that now fuel my business.
I'm watching Designated Survivor.
Yeah, shout out to Tracy.
Tracy.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And that's what, and it's not like I've been, from the moment the pandemic sort of arrived and we were in lockdown, I was like, woo, here we go. This is awesome. What an opportunity. I'm so grateful. I've lost 95% of my forecasted revenue for the business. Yay. But you've got to kind of look at the situation, go, okay, focus on the things we can control and just move on from the things that we can't control. And we have good days and we have bad days. And sometimes I feel like crying. I mean, it's really hard. But overall, every sort of positive step I make forward is like a compounding effect, and it just makes me think, okay, that was worth doing. And then I'll take another one, and that's like, oh, that was really worth doing. And it just keeps on compounding. And until, I'm now, where are we? Week 7 from the lockdown. And
just look at the hair. Yeah, it's got to be about 7 weeks, I think.
The ponytail. And now I feel at the moment I feel like I'm on a positive part of the roller coaster, but I'm sure there'll be low points as well, because that's just part of it.
Definitely. I've got a meeting with, I'm in a mastermind group with some other investors, and we're meeting up next week. And I had a chat with one of them yesterday and give them a little sneak preview of what we're up to. We just check in regularly, make sure we're okay. And I said, right, I'm going to be presenting my numbers next week. And I said, you're going to think I'm mad because I'm going to present the worst numbers you've ever seen at any of our meetings. But I'm feeling more positive than I ever have before, because I'm seeing the opportunity, because I'm not focused on what's happening right now. What's happening right now is I'm building assets, and we've put structures and procedures in place to protect our cash flow. So we get through the crap and the horrible, horrible situation that's going on now. But again, 5 years from now, I'm sat there going, well, I've got this fantastic website. I've got all these nurture campaigns written out, automated. I've got webinars planned. I've got the customer journey all nailed. I've got a fantastic relationship with suppliers, with customers, with affiliates, with joint venture partners. And it all became out of COVID-19, all because I treated people right. I looked after our staff. I looked after our suppliers. I kept talking to all of our customers. We did the right thing by everybody, and we spent our time wisely building assets. Because I did that, when we're in 2025 or 2030, or I'm looking back on my life at my deathbed, Jace, what year am I dying? 2100, isn't it?
Something like that, I think.
I'm 123, and I think it was 2100. So yeah. When in the year 2100,
not 9 p.m. You weren't thinking of 9 p.m., were you?
No.
2100. Yeah, that's when I'm dying.
Yeah. In the year 2100, 80 years
nice
from now,
ending it with you, Rupert. Isn't that great?
80 years from now, when I finally kick the bucket, I want to look back and say, do you know what made all the difference for me? It was what I did in 2020. That was the thing that really kick-started it for me.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think that you look at all the stories of and I'm not saying that I'm going to suddenly become the next Richard Branson, but you do look at all of the stories of the millionaires and billionaires and how they got to where they got. They didn't necessarily start in a crisis situation, but that certainly was their pivotal moment, is when they suddenly switched from doing all right to absolutely nailing it. And that's what I keep thinking in my mind. And I suppose that's the drive, is like, look, this is an opportunity. And you go back to making a different noise. This is the opportunity to actually, it's much easier to stand out. And we've been doing things like webinars and just huge connections on social media, where normally it would be really hard to stand out from everyone else. Not least because there are so many more people now spending time on LinkedIn. So, and all the people, all my customers as well, all my potential customers. So I can suddenly connect with all these people that previously were probably too busy to out on the field to actually bother connecting, talking, engaging. And suddenly they're talking to me and they're looking at me like I'm the expert. I've gone from a possible nobody or just another person in the industry to someone who's now beginning to lead in this area. So it's exciting.
It is
really interesting. Sorry, I was going to say it's really interesting. Earlier, you said you used the word consequence, and that's kind of featured in our script a little bit there. So John wanted to kind of bring that up because so important to kind of make plans, absolutely, and that's something that you've been really, really good at, and it's really important to follow through those plans and actually taking the action, and that's something again we admire as one of our 1%ers, that's something that you're really, really good at, and we've kind of heard some of the fruits of that over the last couple of minutes and stuff. But I know certainly within the group, there's this big stick that they're all kind of hitting you with at the moment to make sure that you do it, because you like to put a consequence in.
There it is. I was waiting for his face to suddenly get the recognition of where this question was going.
What's that Jason talking about?
And it's suddenly the penny dropped.
I knew where this is going. Yes, indeed. So I
need
think
to have consequences, and I think you need to have great consequences, better consequences than anyone else would possibly have. I think really, really good consequences. You need to be better at consequences and have the world's best consequences. Who could give you the world's best consequences? Who's better at consequences than anyone else?
But the man himself, Donald Trump.
So talk us through then, Rupert. How is Donald Trump holding you accountable?
Indeed. So I'm now on my second Trump accountability exercise. So I think it was you, John, who stitched me up the first time. But I did ask for it. So yeah, as we know, you need a consequence. And I think this, for me, that's probably why I love events and probably so good at events, is because it has an immovable deadline, and there's nothing, you have an event, you set a date, and then you plan for it, and then you organize it, you order in all of the equipment, and you market it, and there are 5, 10, 40, 100,000 people coming to your event, and you can't change that date. There's nothing you can do. It's happening. And so you have to make it work, and it always does. We were always ready to accept the people on time into that event. And I think that that's why I need a similar consequence with anything that isn't an event. And up until recently, I haven't been great at hitting my deadlines that aren't related to that event because the consequence isn't severe enough. So yeah, so I think I came up with the idea of putting a financial penalty, I called it at the time, to not hitting my deadline, not hitting my goal. And then I talked about, maybe I could give some money to a charity, or maybe I can take everyone out for a beer when this is all over. But that all sounded far too positive. So despite everyone else in the group being really disappointed with veering off from that idea, where you did suggest that why don't I give the money to the re-election of Donald Trump. So that's what we did. I can't remember what the original value was now, but I've upped it.
5 grand, was it? I don't know, something like that.
What was it?
25 grand or something, was it? I don't know, something like that. I know it was a lot higher than I thought it was going to be. I think kind of go, you pushed that limit a little bit higher. It was like quite 20 quid or 50 quid. It was a little bit more than that, wasn't it?
I think it's got to be. It's got to be a value.
It's got to hurt, hasn't it?
It's got to hurt. It's got to. Yeah. It's got to be enough that you can afford, because you've got to go through with it if you don't do it. Yeah. And I think so it's got to be a penalty which you go, I really don't want to lose that, but I can afford it. Mm-hmm. And there's that balance. So you can't have it to a point where it's so much that you go, I'm going to give 100 grand to the re-election, when you don't even have 100 grand, and even if you did, you definitely wouldn't be giving it that just because you missed a deadline. I mean, that's mad. That's mental talk.
As mad as doing anything to no.
It is mad, but that's the point. It's got to be crazy and mad.
Because if you say, all right, if I don't hit this goal, then I'm going to take you all out for a beer, or I'm going to give 20 quid to my mate, or I'm going to donate 50 quid to charity, then when you've got an excuse not to fail, because you've got an excuse to fail, because you go, I didn't hit my goal, but hey, I raised 50 quid for the NHS. But hey, it's good. I didn't hit my goal, but never mind, you've all got a beer. Everyone's happy. Whereas actually saying, right, let's say it's £500, which is, that's quite a bit. I'm going to have to do a bit of work to earn that sort of money. And it's going to the Donald J. Trump re-election fund. Now, there will be listeners, I'm sure, listening to this podcast who are like, that's a great charity. I'd love to support that. And there are others that don't. So, the idea is that it's what we call an anti-charity. So you are donating a significant sum of money, whatever that is to you. It's got to hurt, to somebody you wouldn't spit on if they were on fire. That is it, basically, in a nutshell. And then you tell people publicly that this is what you're going to do if you don't do X, Y, or Z. Rupert, what has your Facebook feed looked like since announcing that you were going to support the re-election of President Trump if you didn't hit this goal? Have people held you accountable to doing it at all?
Yeah, they certainly haven't let me off. And I've seen some new GIFs that I haven't previously seen, and some new memes or memes, or however you pronounce it. Yeah, there's been a lot of Trumpinism, if that's a thing.
Motivation, I think it is.
Is that what it is?
It's tremendous, the amount of support you found in the group.
Isn't it? Yeah, isn't it great when someone can support you in a way that they can still rip into you?
It was 250 quid, by the way.
It was 250 quid, yeah. I don't. Was it the first time? That's this time, wasn't it? But
That's this time, yeah.
Yeah, I think. Well, anyway, I thought I'd up it a little bit more. And I must admit, midweek through or midway through, I was thinking, oh my God, I hadn't realised. I'd sort of set the deadline. And I also think, I think setting goals, deadlines, it's, yes, you need a consequence, but I've got a great quote, is to achieve great things, two things are needed: a plan and not quite enough time. It's a quote I live by so much that I got it written on my little notepads that I got printed out, and have lots of them because I've got no clients to give them to at the moment.
But plenty of quizzes, so it's all good.
Plenty of quizzes and lots of kids to scribble on them. So the reason I like that particular quote is because it's what I need. And I think when I organise an event, often we don't have enough time to organise the event. And so I need a deadline which is entirely unreasonable and really hard, and I'm going to have to work silly hours in order to get to that, because maybe that gives me a sense of purpose. But it also, there's no point me setting a deadline with a consequence in 2 months' time when realistically I know that I can get it done within a week or 2 weeks or whatever. But I'll often overestimate. So with this particular one, I think I could probably do it in 3 weeks or 4 weeks. So I'll set a deadline for 2 weeks, because let's face it, I've probably got a little bit more time on my hands anyway. So apart from homeschooling, I've got some time, and so that's kind of what I did. But I have to say, midway through, I did feel like I'd maybe set myself a really, really unreasonable deadline.
And meanwhile, you had that quote on your desk reminding you that this is what you asked for, wasn't it? But doesn't the quote say slightly not enough time?
Yeah, not quite enough time.
Not quite enough time. Not nowhere near enough time.
Yeah, there was a bit of a gap there. But I think now I'll be fine. It'll be fine. There are 24 hours in the day, and I only need to sleep for 6 of them. So
I love it. And of course, Donald Trump can just hold your hand the rest of the way, your tiny little hand.
Yeah. Well, it did keep me up last night. I was thinking about it, going, God, 250 quid. Donald Trump. I really don't like Donald Trump.
What's the betting as well? That if you were to, fail to hit this goal and have to make the donation, that's the day he decides he's going to start publicly thanking his supporters from Britain. Suddenly your name is forever associated with a successful re-election of the Donald.
But however, even if it does happen, not that I want it to happen, and it won't happen, it will still. I'll repurpose that somehow. That'll become various posts, and I'll create some content around it. Yeah. Because I'm going to create content around it anyway. Yeah. Because I'm going to hit that goal, and I'm going to say, here's how I did it.
Donald Trump helped me X, Y, Z. Yeah.
Exactly. But if I don't, then I'm going to be posting the receipt up on social media and talking about it instead.
So for the listeners out there who want to be held accountable to something, there's how you do it. There is a public website. Just search Donald Trump re-election. There is a site you can donate. Just get your credit card out. All you need to do is, you can head into our Facebook group. You can email me, john@bigidea.co.uk, and just let me know what you're going to do, when you're going to do it by, and if you don't do it, how much you are going to donate to either the Donald Trump re-election campaign, or if you're the other way, the Joe Biden election campaign, or whatever charity you do not want to support. Let us know. We will hold your feet to the fire, so to speak. And I look forward to seeing lots more content out there that Donald Trump is holding everybody accountable to actually achieving their goals.
Maybe we should start a hashtag, Trump accountability.
Yeah.
Actually, there's probably one already about
Trumpability, we'll call it.
Trumpability. Oh, good. I might switch it up next time. I'm going to be honest. I feel like I need something else. Maybe Trump is going to get a bit boring, and I'm going to actually start wanting to give him money. He might start saying sensible things soon. So maybe we'll think about something even worse next time.
There's going to be something for most. I mean, it could be. I've talked about this in Big Ideas. It could just be actually you're going to write a check and send it to your biggest competitor, whose guts you absolutely hate, and who you just really would love to put out of business. Just send them a check.
Exactly. And I think you do. I think a part of it is it's got to be public accountability. And even if you, depending on who you are and how honest you are with yourself, so is that maybe you need to actually hand over that financial penalty or whatever it is that you decide is a deep penalty, is that you hand that over to someone else who you trust, who can, there's my money. If I don't do this, you're giving this to Donald Trump.
Yeah, I think there is a website. I think I wrote about it in Big Ideas called stick.com, STIKK.com. And literally it holds it in escrow. You decide this is the criteria. This is the adjudicator. I'm hands off now. I've given you my money, and the adjudicator says, yeah, he did it, or no, he didn't. And they take the adjudicator's word.
Perfect. I love that.
And you can use it for anything from, I need to get this content written. I need to launch this new product. I need to lose weight. I need to achieve this goal. I need to do this work. I need to launch this product. Just, you can use it for anything you want to be held accountable to.
I think for me, it wraps up. It's like the icing on the cake for all of the things that I've learned over the years, and most specifically over the 14 odd months that I've been with 1% Club, is that I've learned about the one thing. I've learned about time blocking. I've learned about 90-day plans. But it all needs to, ultimately, it's meaningless unless you have that goal and that consequence, and that sort of that wraps it all up.
Sorry, that word's just out of shot, mate. But action is the one you're looking for.
Action, yeah.
There it is.
Oddly enough, I was going, or not oddly enough, I've got on my my could-do list is to create a little light box which says, "What's the next action?" And I'm going to have that back there. And I do now. I've begin to think about it a little bit more for the last few weeks. I must do that, actually, make a little sign to what's the next action, because that's, for me, that's the beginning, and then it's right. Okay, what's the next action? I'm going to do this. Brilliant. Okay, then how am I going to, not just how am I going to do it and when am I going to do it, but what's the consequence if I don't do it?
Yeah. You reeled off a load of things there that you've learned since joining the 1% Club, let's say 14 months ago. What's the kind of the one thing that's moved the needle most from being a 1%er for you?
Might have to have a couple of cut minutes to think about that. There's so many. It's so good. I mean, there's so much value that it's added with, I think, certainly through times like this, where I think when this first hit, the very first thing I did was I went into my budget, my P&L, and I went, right, what am I going to cut? Because now's the time. It's like, we're not spending any money. So I spoke to the wife. There is no spend. We're not spending a dime. We need to find out what this looks like, how long it's going to last. So it was going into the business and cutting subscriptions that had been sitting there and going, oh, they're sort of useful. And obviously one of them was my membership to 1% Club.
Yeah.
And I looked at that and I went, should that be something I'm looking at? But obviously not, because it's the one thing that's going to get me out of this.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's it. It's for me, it's like having another department as part of the business, but that department is actually full of multiple departments, because I've been able to get I've got an accountability department, obviously. I've got a HR department. I've got a marketing department. And then as well as that, I've got a whole bunch of people who I can come to, have a chat to, and they're not biased. They're not going to tell me, they're not, you can go to your family and your friends and you can have a conversation with them, and they'll say what they think they need to say, but they don't, and they mean well, but they will get you in trouble if you listen to their advice.
Yes.
That would be my advice. And I think you need to speak to people who are in a similar position to you, in either that they're just starting a business or that they own a business, and they're thinking it more practically, and they're trying to, they're thinking about it more pragmatically.
Mm-hmm.
And and they're not too emotionally attached to the outcomes.
Yeah, I think that's the key for me. Is I've been part of groups before where people have got a vested interest, and they just want to sell what they've got. It's the old man with a hammer solution, isn't it? If you've got a hammer, then the whole world looks like a nail. Whereas I think the 1% Club, no one's got any skin in the game in terms of your business. No one's a shareholder in your business other than you. But every single person wants you to succeed, and they're willing to do whatever's necessary. And we've seen it, I think, a lot more since this hit back in March. 1%ers just jumping on calls with each other and just helping each other out. We used to see it with 1%ers who were maybe an hour drive away would meet up. We, for some reason, haven't seen that the last couple of months. But we are just seeing Zoom calls popping up left, right, and centre. And I think there was a sweepstake literally this week, wasn't there, with Clark, about how long he'd spent on a Zoom call with a fellow 1%er, and his previous record was like 2 hours 18 minutes, and he'd smashed this one. But it was just two unrelated business owners who don't know each other. They don't even live in the same country, and they're not in the same sector, helping each other out. And for me, that's why we created the 1% Club. That's the beauty of it, is bringing together completely different sectors, completely different types of industry, and saying, actually, do you know what? Who's got a different viewpoint on this? Who's got some experience? Who's been down this road before? And who can help me that I actually trust?
And I think that the clue is in the title, because for me, it's not one thing, or perhaps the one thing is all the little things. So it's the 90-day plan, it's the time blocking, it's the connections with like-minded business owners, it's the idea of creating a vision board, and it's all those things. And it's not just all those things that have already come through and already available, but it consistently is new things. Every time I think, I don't know if I've got time to go on this coaching call, and I go on it, and I always come away with something. So whereas you think you spend time with the same people, you're going to get the same results, that isn't always the case, because we're all going out there, we're having new experiences, but then we're coming back and we're sharing that with each other.
There's always something. We've recorded, just before this podcast, we recorded the masterclass SEO with a guy, one of 1% that we've known for years. We've done SEO for years, and I've made notes on stuff that we need to do in our business that I kind of knew but weren't doing. And if we hadn't have had that conversation today, bear in mind we've had multiple conversations with the same guy around SEO in the past, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh wow, we could do that in that part of the business. And it's just that brainstorming and coming up with ideas that you are never going to think of on your own.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of my main parts of my business is based around one of the other 1%ers' business. Clark has got his design business, and it's a subscription model. And I actually didn't even think, I started using it, and I was like, this is really cool. And I thought, hang on a minute, this is really cool. And also, this same model can apply to my business. And so now, whenever it's 4 months, I think I did it 2 months later, but within 4 months, it was very much up and running. And we're even doing a soft launch before the pandemic. It's been the biggest success for me.
Cool. Right. I've got a couple of more questions, Rupert, and I will let you get on. So the main question that I know all of our listeners are going to be thinking about right now, because this is our July episode. So we've brought Rupert on. Yes, obviously we want to talk about the pivots with COVID. We want to talk about how the events industry has designed things. We want to talk about accountability and Trump and all that. But the real burning question that we've brought Rupert on to answer is, Rupert, how should I cook my Christmas dinner?
To the finite minute.
Just to give you some background here, was that the year before last, I believe you first shared this, wasn't it?
I think it was, yeah.
Rupert has a spreadsheet system, and it is a system, isn't it, for preparing and serving the Christmas meal.
Yeah, it's not even on a spreadsheet; it's on a project management system, and with everything, with dependency lines, the lot. So yeah, it's very much a minute by minute account of how one puts a Christmas dinner together, from the moment you're peeling those potatoes the night before right through to serving it, and all the times that you need to take every single part of that Christmas dinner out of the oven or off the steamer or whatever it is.
Color coded,
resource applied to each, whether that be one part of the oven or the second oven, or who's going to be peeling the potatoes, and who's everything. Yeah, no, I am a bit. I like systems and processes, and my whole business is dependent on it, and that's the one thing that keeps me going. And every time I look at a problem, sometimes not to the benefit, every time I look at a problem, I go, how can I systemize that? That's my very first question, which isn't always a good idea, because sometimes the problem is unique and you just need to get the hell on with it. Yeah. But if it becomes and I'm learning more, but if it becomes a system, a problem or a task which needs to be repeated, then how can I automate that? Or at least how can I systemize that to make the process a lot more quicker? And so now, I mean, my team rip into me, because I'm always coming up with different systems and new ideas, and I have to be a little bit careful that they are improving our workflow and not making it more complicated. But yeah, that's a really big one for me, is systems and to the detail systems, like leaving nothing left to the imagination or to human error as much as possible anyway. Yeah. I think if you can make a system work without and if it does go wrong, then you can go back to the system and go, that's where I went wrong. It says in the system I should have done that and I didn't. That's my my
not
favorite.
You're going to have to do that if you've got I was going to say, if you've got a product that actually you have 100,000 people come along to, and a full kind of you've got to have a system in place, because otherwise there are so many rooms where things can go wrong. So it's exactly what you need in your business, but that's what everybody needs in their business, is something that they can follow easily.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of my favorite books around that is Michael Gerber's E-Myth Revisited. That's a fantastic one on how to structure your business and how and why you should have systems within your business to make them operate consistently and and profitably. Christmas dinner.
Good.
By the way, I'm not even cooking Christmas dinner this year. Well, I'm hoping, if we're allowed, by Christmas, that we'll be going out, and I'm not actually doing Christmas dinner.
So you're just going to email the process across to the restaurant beforehand? Or?
Yeah.
I'm going to say, by the end of this homeschooling, you could just give that process to the kids and they could provide it. I know you have young children, but they should be able to follow the system, shouldn't they?
Absolutely.
Good. So for those who want to find out more about you, Rupert, and what you do, where's the best place for people to get in touch with you?
I am very active on LinkedIn. So if you just search for Rupert Bassadone, you'll find me on LinkedIn. And anyone that's keen to, that's maybe in this industry, in the events industry, and wants to talk direct, I'm more than happy for them to get in touch with me direct. They can just email me at rupert@eventsitedesign.co.uk.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Thank you very much
for joining us on this episode. July episode it's going to be, which is excellent, isn't it?
Thanks very
much.
much.
Feel proper summer, and hopefully by then we might actually be allowed out to play a little bit more than we are now.
That would be joyous. There's some things I'm missing with this. One of them is golf, and the other one is mountain biking. I'm feeling a little bit claustrophobic in this little box.
And I bet, are you not missing like being knee deep in mud, sticking flags all over the place?
Well, there's a little bit of that, but I'm getting out when I can, sticking a few flags in the ground, even if it's to mark out VE Day or something.
Oh dear. Fantastic. As always, guys, you will find the show notes for this episode, all the full video, the transcript, everything, including, I'm hoping, Rupert's Christmas dinner plan. Are you happy to share that with us, Rupert, or for our show notes page?
If you like, yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. I'll upload that to the website. You'll find that at bigidea.co.uk, where, as always, you can get a new Big Idea from us every single Wednesday. Just pop your email address in the box there. Finally, I just want to leave you with a Warren Buffett quote. We have gone an entire episode so far without a Warren Buffett quote. Cannot do that. We have to write that wrong. So I just want to leave you with this parting thought from the Oracle of Omaha. And it is this: in the 20th century, the United States endured 2 world wars and other traumatic and expensive military conflicts, the Depression, a dozen or so recessions and financial panics, oil shocks, a flu epidemic, and the resignation of a disgraced president. Yet the Dow rose from 66 to 11,497. So there is hope yet for the rest of us. Stay safe, guys. Look after each other, and we'll see you in the next episode of the AOB podcast. See you later.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So there we are, another episode in the can. How was it for you? Please let us know. However you listen to these podcasts, please leave a review on that platform. Let us know what we can do better, what you like, what you don't like, and how we can improve to make this show even better for you. We'll see you next time.